Yo, I'm doing a video, so I kind of hate the current political discourse. I feel like it's all about trying to score like your critical points on, oh fuck, you're wrong, you're bad, you suck, instead of trying to have a discourse. And I feel that kind of boils down to just shit talking competitions, who can make the other side look worse. And I feel like the right kind of has the upper hand in that right now, and that's solely because the left is so dogmatic right now, and they're so centralized and systematic in their approaches to situations that it kind of creates a logical through line where they aren't approaching things by virtue of logic, but by the systems at play. So CNN isn't like holding a position because it's the logical one. They're holding the position because it's the position their shareholders have. It's the position that other media heads have. It's the position that other industries have. And so it's like they're not holding this logic because it's like a good position to have. They're holding it because it's convenient to their interest. And so what I noticed is you have these left wing news stations, and mind you, they are left wing. A lot of people will say, you're just a conspiracy theorist or you're nuts. But you have people like Chris Cuomo, a former CNN news anchor, like someone who literally worked for CNN, and he will admit that his side is biased towards the left. His news station is biased towards the left. This is a guy who worked at CNN. Why would he lie? I mean, you could say, like, yo, he has motive to lie, but it's like, I don't really give a shit. There's a guy who says it's biased towards the left. They seem to be biased towards the left. They hate on Trump, they hate on right-wing figures, and I'm like, well, I don't know. It seems to line up that they're left-leaning. I feel like Whipple's, Whipple's leftist, you know, um, communist, or, whatever. There's a lot of intersection between, communist, leftist, liberals, or whatever. Like, it's generally the same group of people who are, holding these talking points. So I don't really care, if Biden is a Wibble or leftist and Vosh is a, Wibble, or Biden's a Wibble and Vosh is a leftist. I don't really care about like subjective distinction between, say like a Biden or a Trudeau versus like some bread tuber. I don't care about the distinction that you make. Like you're the Robin Hood guy fighting against the system, and Biden is the system. Like you can argue that if you want, but at the end of the day, I think you're holding the same policy descriptions. You're holding the same moral, descriptions. So, I mean, I don't really care about any, like, belief you have in difference. Like, you could believe you're different from the systematic structure, but when you're having the same positions and you espouse the same logic, I don't really give a shit. Like, your opinion is irrelevant by that point. Um, I think this angers some people that, like, YouTube exists as a platform, because it's like they can't fundamentally control what's on it and what's not. And I think that bothers a lot of people because it's like, the liberal status quo. Say your CNNs, your Bidens, your Trudeaus, your news anchors, your media companies, your Disneys, your etc. And I think that angers them that there is an online sphere where, they don't really approve of the left. And I think a lot of the problem with left and right type conversations is that a lot of people look outwards and they don't think about the outside context. Like they'll look at things from the liberal perspective, or they'll look at things from the conservative perspective, and they don't really care, that their perspective is very limited. And you'll have people like Xanderfall. I think I might be mispronouncing his name, or you'll have people like Hunter Avalon, and they'll go like, well, right wing channels get a lot more views, and it's like, well, I think you're right. Is that because there is more right wing people? Actually, no, that isn't true. That I think that's kind of more of a victim complex. I think it ignores the underlying logic for why that discrepancy exists. So if I'm a leftist liberal and I want something that conforms to my ideological position, and I want to get it pretty easily, and I want to get that kind of I want to get like coverage of the latest events from the perspective of a leftist liberal. And where do I go? Where do I go if I'm that person? If I'm that person and I want a perspective on a current subject that is fundamentally left wing, where do I go? Well, it's a simple answer. I don't necessarily have to go through, YouTube. I don't necessarily have to go on the internet to get a perspective on a Wibble talking point. CNN is just as valuable as a left wing coverage as say Vosh or as say Hunter Avalon. You're getting as much of a leftist perspective watching CNN um, as you do say like a bread tuber, because the only distinction between a CNN and a like a bread tuber is that one has more systematic power, and I think that's like the fundamental main difference. You're not going to convince me uh, that I'm getting a fundamentally different position by watching Vosh as compared to watching CNN. And so that's kind of why I think you get less people viewing liberals online. Because I think there is more sources that are mainstream that general people who are liberal would prefer. I think with right wing sources, I think you pretty much necessarily have to go to say a Ben Shapiro, to say a Jordan Peterson to get like a right wing coverage on a topic if you're into that. And I just don't really think you're gonna get a good coverage of a good right wing coverage unless you go to the internet. Because I don't really think in the mainstream there is really a right wing coverage. The mainstream is left. Like the status quo is a left wing creation. Like it isn't right wing by any means. Like all your Disneys, all your anime companies, all your video game companies, all have espoused very liberal slash leftist talking points. Like they literally are espousing these beliefs towards their viewership. Like they argue for representation, diversity, yada yada. These are very typical left wing slash liberal talking points. You could say they're just doing it for DEI, or they're just doing it for ESG scores, and they don't actually care about the material. But I don't believe that. I think fundamentally these companies are very left wing, and I don't think they would sustain the losses they have. Like they've lost money on some projects because of their politics, and I don't think they would do that. I don't think they would lose money on projects for politics if they didn't care about the politics. Like, why would you willingly lose money on a project if you didn't believe in the politics? Like, why risk all that money and lose money if you don't care about the positions that are being pushed? I find it funny too that a lot of liberals will try to like maintain this victim mentality. Their whole belief structure is kind of faulty. Um I think that's kind of the problem of, politically minded people. They look at the topic within their own confines. And and I think the problem with leftists I see too is they look at topics inherently by the virtue of it being convenient at the moment. Example being, uh, gender is whatever the fuck liberals want it to be. Like, gender in 1 second on the trans issue, it's like subjective, it's based on nothing, it's just social construction. Like, it isn't meaningful. And then when it's like with regards to the feminist questions, it's like men are sexist, men are evil, and men are fundamentally oppressive towards women. And it's like you have this perspective where at the same time gender is meaningless, and at another second it's also so deeply entrenched in your biology that it's like core to your behavioral foundations. Like it's either it's can't be both if you're being logically consistent, but these people are about belief. They don't care about logical consistency. And I think that's a problem with political type people. They don't look outwards. They don't self-examine. I think that's a problem with like right-wing people too. They'll criticize like, liberals like I have been doing, but they won't think about the problems in their own belief systems. Like they'll a lot of right-wing people are Christian, and that adds a lot of faults, So it's I don't think this is a crazy idea from a atheistic perspective, but is there really any evidence of there being a god? And if there is evidence of there being a deity of any kind, then why would it be Yahweh, right? So there's just fundamental flaws in kind of the Christian reasoning. I don't think the Christian questions or the Christian belief system is at all a threat to the current regime by any means. I don't think it's uh you know big enough to mean anything, especially when there's religious divide among people. There's Muslims who don't like Christians. There's Jewish people who don't like Christians. So I don't really think it means anything in terms of like a global stage type situation. I don't think, the Christian beliefs are going to take over, like, say, how it was Ronald Reagan era. I don't fundamentally believe in a lot of liberal talking points. I think a lot of people just want to stick with what was currently the case like 50 years ago, and they don't want to move on because they want an issue for people to vote on. They want the liberal leftist to vote for Biden, and if women are oppressed and black people are oppressed, and they're just so downtrodden, then it gives them a reason to go out and vote because look at these poor women, these poor black people. I don't really have sympathies for such people. I don't think you're a victim. I don't think you really have much. I don't really think you have much oppression in your life. If you have all the major corporations and all the major governments shilling for your particular group, I don't think you're an oppressed class. I think you're the privileged class. Um, does that mean I think women on average are like rich elites who make billions of dollars? Yeah, not really. But do they have advantages in society that men who are white and straight don't? Yeah, certainly. In a system where most people in power are very left leaning, I think the people in advantage are the groups that leftists are trying to push for.